When you need to stay connected with friends and families at home or abroad, the best choice for you is Freedom. CCT Freedom. With the lowest rates in the market, our Freedom plan gives you unlimited calls and texting. Plus, our Freedom One package includes 10 gigabits of super fast, unlimited LTE data and unlimited calls to the BVI, USA, USVI, Canada, Puerto Rico, and UK lines. Why pay for overages when you can enjoy CCT Freedom? Stop by at one of our stores today and speak with one of our representatives to find out more about our CCT Freedom packages. Ms. Freeman and Mr. Bob, welcome to 284 Media Studios.
Thank you.
All right, so to begin with, the topic of child abuse has been a very sensitive topic, but nevertheless a very prevalent issue plaguing our society. I know we've been pleading with the community to break the silence over the years. Based on your experience thus far, your tenure, do you think the community has responded?
In terms of response, I think response is measurable in that we receive a lot of reports, particularly during the month of April, because we're out there giving information and awareness about what child abuse is, what indicators to look for, and who to report it to. So in that vein, I think we've had tremendous response from the community. Even persons would call to report anonymously, and we encourage persons to do that because we recognize we're in a very small community and confidentiality is an issue.
Very important.
Yes.
Conventionally, child abuse is something that we know to affect little girls. They usually fall victim to child abuse. But when it comes to our boys, are we seeing the same type of activity?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I think the numbers are comparable in being equal in both sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, all the types that we see, even sexual abuse in our community. I think boys are affected as much as girls are. But I'm sure Officer Bob, being the one who actually investigates these matters, can shed some more light on that in terms of the gender.
Okay, Mr. Bob?
Yes, to answer your question, we have seen an increase in terms of where reports of males have been sexually assaulted, young boys. And to go back to your previous question, I believe because of the education campaign and the sensitization of the public that have that confidence and trust in the authorities to investigate these matters, we are seeing more so victims coming forward in reported cases. Sometimes the reasons for boys less reported, I believe, because of the stigma.
The stigma attached to that.
Because boys, we are men, we mature, and come forward and let others know, or the public know that I'm being abused, whether physically or sexually, is something difficult. And we will continue to work with parents and victims, especially with males, so that we can have perpetrators being arrested and charged and taken before court so that the justice can be served.
All right, alarmingly too, we've seen that the perpetrators are usually someone close to the home, sometimes even within our homes.
Correct.
And as you mentioned before, I met both you guys at the Adventist, when the 7 Days Adventist community would have organized a walk against child abuse.
Yes.
You mentioned that a lot of the abuse is happening within the home.
Correct.
And we have increase in cases of incest.
Yes.
What is your take on that?
In terms of the home, it's not only relatives, because there are a lot of parents, particularly women, who are in single parent households, and they have partners, most times male partners, that they invite into their homes, and at times they are the ones who perpetuate on the young children in the home. So we see a lot of dependency from the mom to the partner, and that sometimes slows up the process in terms of reporting, because financially she's dependent on this person to assist her. So sometimes it's difficult for her to report the matters, because then she has to weigh the financial and other consequences. So we see a lot of instances such as that, but we also see where fathers are perpetuating against their own biological children.
We've seen some recent cases
Yes,
of that.
yes.
All right, I've always battled this. I personally believe that the penalties are not harsh enough. But I know you guys are the experts. Do you think that we have, the penalties for these types of crimes, do you think is a good enough penalty? Because when you come to think about it, a child that is abused, in my opinion, that child never fully recovers.
Correct.
Of course, depending on the extent of the abuse.
Right.
But it's also common, and it's only until you sit in a little circle where you're familiar with people and you start these types of discussions, you realize how many of us have been abused as
Right.
children. So
Exactly.
we don't really escape that reality.
Right.
And it really makes us wonder if the perpetrators are really being punished accordingly.
Well, like you rightfully said, can you actually put a number of years to someone who has changed the life of a child significantly for the rest of his or her life? I don't think you can equate that to years at all. But in recent years, I think we've seen some very strong messages being sent through the court in terms of sentences that these perpetrators receive. So it's a work in progress, but of course advocacy from the public, if legislators know that the community is not satisfied with what's happening, then the community would have to be the change agents in terms of saying that we want stronger penalties to protect our children.
On the topic of victim shaming, and I know this is becoming very prevalent, once you're underage and you're abused, for some reason as a community, we find ways to blame the victim, despite not knowing what that situation may have been. And I know this has played a major role in deterring people from coming forward. How do we combat that issue?
Well, let me first start with, for me and my staff, we are trained, well-trained officers, professionally trained to deal with child abuse cases. And one of the things that we always put forward is to make sure that we listen to every victim, listen to their complaints, their stories they may give, and don't give them that, to say that, okay, I don't believe. We always try our best to stay professional and make sure we get all the necessary evidence to prove the case. We have a secure database on our police database system that we secure all of our reports. So only my staff and the senior management within the Royal Virginians Police Force can see these reports. So they have been secured and safe, and we give persons that assurance that their reports will stay with us.
Okay.
We will do all that is necessary to make sure justice being served. In terms of when it gets out to the public domain, and most time it happens when persons being charged, and matters go before the court.
Right.
The media has a role to play.
Right.
And there's no way we can stop the media in terms of giving information. But we limited those information where the victim names would not be withheld. And also perpetrators, as long as it's a child abuse case. So, but sometimes I always really encourage some of the media houses to be more sensitive, because sometimes you may see it where some of them allowed some of the blogging
Right.
to take place.
Right.
And we call them right away and say, listen, you need to stop this,
Right.
because this matters before the court. There's not a trial as yet. And the victim and the families are seeing all these negative comments.
That may as very well
Right.
interfere with the
Right.
investigation
So
as well as the outcome.
we
of
encourage the
case.
media houses to be more sensitive to these things. And but all in all, we still encourage persons to still report. Still report. Don't be ashamed, because the longer you keep that report, the longer you keep that within you from not reporting it, allowing it to come out, it can affect you for the rest of your life.
Indeed.
It can still play a major role in affecting you psychologically. So we always encourage persons to report it and let the judiciary system deal with such matter. We get the supportive help, psychologically for victims, so that they can receive the necessary help that they may need. And also for perpetrators, because they themselves also need to be healed,
Right.
because we don't want them to reoffend again.
Absolutely.
So it is important that, again, as I continue to stress, that you report.
Now, if we do suspect a case of child abuse, what's the protocol for reporting? Do we report to social development first, or do we reach out to the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force?
Well, especially for those who are mandatory reporters, there are certain criteria in which you can do so. For example, if let's say you are a teacher and you suspect one of your students is being abused, whether sexually or physically, you then report that matter to the principal. In the absence of the principal, the guidance counselor, who will then call the police or social development.
Okay.
Our numbers, you can reach my mobile number as 368-9904, 368-9904, and you can call social development. What's
The
your number?
emergency number is 468-9371.
And that would be a 24-hour line?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, perfect.
And if you're not falling in that category of mandatory reporters, then you can do likewise call the police or social development.
All right, so this month we are celebrating child abuse awareness. Of course, quite a number of activities we've seen laid out throughout the month. I know some of them we would have already embarked on.
Yes.
If there are any to come, can you fill us in on what's going to be happening for the rest of the month?
On the 26th of April, we're encouraging everybody to wear blue on that day,
Okay.
because blue is the color associated with child abuse. So we're asking persons to wear any shade of blue, your hair, your nail polish, shoes, whatever,
Just
right?
to show support.
Just show your support. In addition to that, you can purchase t-shirts at Urban VI. We created a t-shirt this year that said, "Every Child Matters,"
And
which is
that's
the
the
theme.
theme,
Yes,
right.
that's the theme for this year. In addition to pinwheels for prevention, Every Child Matters. For a couple of years, it's been the teddy bear.
Okay.
But the teddy bear is specifically associated with child sexual abuse. And we wanted to bring awareness to the other types of abuse,
Right.
neglect, physical. So we wanted to incorporate all of those. So we decided to use a pinwheel. So we've been doing that for the past 2 years now.
Okay.
And our last activity for the month is on April 27th, and we're showing a movie at Captain Mulligan's. The event starts at 6 p.m. We're going to have face painting,
Oh, nice.
puppet shows,
Okay.
and then we're going into the movie at 7 once the sun goes down.
You know, we get carried away. We don't pay attention enough. So how can we be more responsible as we try to eradicate something I would think that's really plaguing our society, and it's not just in the BVI but all across the world?
Correct.
How can we be more responsible as adults, as parents, as a community?
I would encourage everybody to report any suspicion. You don't have to go and investigate and ask questions. That is for Officer Bob and myself to do.
Okay.
So if you suspect a child is being abused, please call, make a report to the Social Development Department or to the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. You can contact Sergeant Bob, you can contact myself, and the report will be dealt with anonymously.
All right. Any closing words, Mr. Bob?
I will continue to say that as a community, that we have to be more observant. We have to pay more special attention, especially to our children, not just your biological children, but
Right.
someone else's children. Because sometimes what I find is that we try all our best and do whatever we can do for our children, our biological children, and don't care about someone else's child. But when that someone else's child being abused, you have to be careful that someday your child that you put all your investment in can now be abused by that same child that you have neglected in
Right.
the first place. So let us continue to be more observant, pay attention to our surroundings, ask questions. You can call me at any time. I've given my number. Call Ms. Freeman. Ask for information, how you can see signs and indicators, where child abuse are concerned. And we can always provide those for you so that you can be more focused as to what is going on around us. Okay?
All right. Ms. Freeman and Mr. Bob, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you very much.
As you heard it, viewers, it will require a holistic approach as we try to champion the cause of child abuse. I'm Javon Wilson, and this has been your 284 exclusive.